Hello and welcome to the Institute of Polish Language at the Polish Academy of Sciences, and today we are visiting the Department of Latin, of the Latin language, and we are being invited by Professor Michał Rzepiela, the chair of this department. Hello and welcome.
Hello, welcome.
And today we'll be talking about lexicography and Latin. But first, when I look around here, I see many different boxes. One of those boxes is actually sitting on this table right here. And the question being, what's in there? And if I take one of the things which are here, what I can see here, it is pieces of paper, index files, something like that, maybe excerpts. So can you say more about those things?
These excerpts were collected during some decades before the Second World War as the source base for our dictionary. We are the dictionary which is based on its own sources. It means on these excerpts, which were taken as the quotations from edited medieval text sources, and in this way they establish the starting point for writing dictionary.
Okay, because that's right. The name of this department is Polish Latin. Polish Latin. As far as I know, there's only one Latin language, isn't it? Am I right? What is about this Polish Latin, Polish variant of Latin?
You are right and you are wrong at the same time. What I mean, the Latin as a language, of course, was the only one. However, if we are talking about medieval Latin, we have to be aware of the fact that medieval Latin was used in different time periods in different regions of Europe. And for that reason, if we intend to have insight into this language, we have to compose the dictionary covering the language specific for specific time and region. It is fascinating are the origins of these dictionaries, which go back to the initiative of l'Union Académique Internationale. It was in 20s of the 20th century. L'Union Académique launched initiative to compose one common dictionary of medieval Latin for the whole Europe. And it rapidly appeared that it was not possible because of these differences I mentioned before.
So how many of those dictionaries, local dictionaries of local Latin varieties, exist?
About 10 or even more. I cannot count at the moment precisely, but generally each bigger region of Europe, because of course these regions of Europe should not necessarily be identified with the states we know today. Each bigger region of Europe has its own dictionary. Of course, if we are talking about different regions, we automatically think about different vernacular languages which could have influenced Latin used in a given region. And in fact, it is so, but this is also a very, very interesting question, to what extent and how Latin was influenced by vernacular languages.
That's actually a very interesting question indeed, because the excerpt I just have in my hand is it says kmeto, which to my understanding is a Polish noun rather than a Latin one, right? So the question is, how do you distinguish what does belong to Latin and what belongs to Polish? What is the methodological assumption here? Which kind of vocabulary did you take into your dictionary?
It's a good question. The starting question is that to what degree a given vernacular or vernacular stem word was perceived by the users as a stable part of Latin vocabulary. The kmeto, peasant, is the word which has in Latin very high frequency. And that is a proof, frequency, that is a proof that a given word was assimilated by Latin. Because it should be pointed out that the majority of Polish stem words which appear in Latin should be rather treated as code switching from Polish to Latin, which were coined, if you can say, or which were spontaneously used by the users of medieval Latin at the moment in which their linguistic competence didn't allow them to use a proper word. So that is a lack of knowledge of the norm which was decisive for these codes switching. But kmeto, next to such words as like granicies, border, or meadow. So these are words which entered Latin and were really assimilated in Latin. In addition, that is also argument concerning derivational process. If a given word with vernacular stem establish its own derivational series, it can be proved that it was well assimilated to it.
You said frequency. This is the decisive factor, which is quite interesting indeed. And now, speaking of frequencies, back in time, I guess you counted all those cards, all those excerpts manually. But over the decades, the new technologies into lexicography emerged. And now the question is, how do you position yourself against this new trend of doing e-lexicography? Have you switched from paper to database? Do you plan to do so?
We started to do so, and we make large use of new technologies. The part of our dictionary covering the letters from A to Q has been already digitalized, and we plan to pursue this idea to have both paper and electronic version of the dictionary. Of course, our main task is to continue this paper version, which will probably precede this electronic few years, but that is not only what I like to point out. That is not only the form of presentation. I mean, to change the paper version on electronic version. No, this electronic devices give us a better insight into many linguistic questions and problems which we establish or what we investigated previously in more or less intuitive way. And electronic devices such as electronic corpus of medieval Latin, we have one, and electronic dictionary gives you the possibility to provide more reliable results.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for this interview, and thank you for watching us, and welcome to the next episodes.
Thank you.